My name is Joe Frank, and I'm the Director of Advanced Planning with the City of Fort Collins. I'm also project lead on the city staff side involved in the Plan Fort Collins effort. Beside me is Leslie Ellis from Clarion Associates, based here in Fort Collins, and Leslie's leading the consultant team on this project. I want to welcome you and thank you for your interest in Plan Fort Collins. This is an important project because it's about shaping our community's future, about our children's future, about how we believe our community should look and be like 25 years and 50 years from now. And because it's about shaping a desired future, your support is critical, not only for being sure that we have the right choices today, but about having your support for the vision over the long term as we implement it. And because your input and support is so important, we're making a concerted effort to reach out to as many people as possible, as broad a base of interest and viewpoints as possible. And this tape session is just one of the many ways you can learn more about, can stay informed, and be involved in Plan Fort Collins. I hope that most of you already know what Fort Collins is about, but if you don't, it's not too late to learn more and get involved. I encourage each of you to visit our project website, attend one of the public events that we have planned, use your computer to complete an online survey, use Twitter on your cell phone to tell us what you think, or pick up a telephone and personally share your thoughts with city staff. Plan Fort Collins is the most important community-wide visioning event that the city has ever undertaken. Its primary product is to create a new city plan and transportation master plan, which will guide the physical, the economic, and the social development of the community. These two documents are our city's master plans that guide the way the city looks and feels over time. Plan Fort Collins will present an integrated and sustainable approach to all city policies. We'll also test new ways to achieve the vision of a world-class community. And the plan is just not about planning, but will be about implementation too, and we'll be offering specific ways to achieve the vision. We're at a really good point for undertaking a comprehensive examination of our plans. There's much good planning and programs and services that are in place and have really worked well for our community. Plan Fort Collins will blend the best planning from the past with new ideas and practices. The city is facing significant challenges and opportunities for how our community will evolve and become over time. I think we can all agree that the conditions that have shaped our community over the last 50 years will not be the same for the next 50 years. There are new challenges and opportunities that we must acknowledge, confront, and plan for as we continue our mission to being a world-class community. Energy and water usage, economic recession and recovery, global warming, demographic shifts, housing affordability, technological changes, and regional competition are but a few of the factors that will influence our community's future. It's been more than 10 years since both the city plan and the transportation master plan were prepared and adopted. Over 5 years since they were last updated, and it's time to take another look. The planning process is about 6 months into a 14-month-long process. We've just completed phase 1, which engaged the public about opportunities and challenges and asked them about new ideas. And this tape session is about phase 2, which is about identifying possible choices for the future and narrowing down those choices to a preferred direction. Phase 2 is leading to a council work session on July 27th, during which council will help narrow the choices. And that'll lead to staff actually writing the plan during phase 3 next fall, and we'll also begin working on related implementation actions and strategies. The intent is to have a draft plan by the end of this year, which then will be presented to the boards and commissions and City Council for adoption in February and March. The purpose of this presentation is to seek your input and thoughts on the best set of policy choices and directions. The policy choices have been organized and aligned according to 7 categories: the economy, the environment, livability, safety and wellness, culture, parks and recreation, transportation, and high-performing community. The choices are about ways we can achieve our vision of our community, building upon the values and the goals from previous planning efforts, and addressing challenges and opportunities and offering new ideas that we heard from phase 1 of the Plan Fort Collins effort. As I mentioned, the current task is to narrow the list down to a few that will provide the foundation for a new city plan and transportation master plan. It's critically important that we hear from you about the choices. We want to confirm what we thought we heard from you during phase 1 and to be sure that the choices that we proceed with are the right ones for our future. The choices are cost-cutting and have impacts on other topics. In some cases, the choices are mutually exclusive. There are clear choices between one choice or another. In other cases, the choices support one another, and it is very probable that we'll bundle choices together. For each of the 7 categories, there's a set of choices and a detailed description of the choices. As we continue to narrow the list of choices into a plan and implementation actions, there will be additional detail added. Each of the choices have been evaluated using triple bottom line screening indicators, essentially measuring the costs and the benefits of the choices in terms of economic sustainability, quality of life, and environmental stewardship. This graphic shows some of the indicators that we'll be using to evaluate the choices. During one of our upcoming focus group meetings, we're going to be asking attendees to help on refining these indicators. We'll also be using the indicators over the long term to measure the effectiveness of city plan and the transportation master plan. At this time, I'll pass the microphone to Leslie Ellis, who will give you a taste of the choices and a brief review of what's to come next for Plan Fort Collins.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Hello, Fort Collins. And we'd like to urge you, as you consider the topics that you'd like to give us some input on, to just spend some time thinking about which topics interest you. I'd like to give you a quick overview of what you can find in the other videos for the 7 topics and how you can give feedback on specific ideas and topics. Did we get everything exactly right at this stage? Possibly not. Did we miss something? Possibly. So we're still seeking lots of input, and we'll be carrying forward a lot of what we've had in previous efforts and in the snapshot report as we move forward in the next steps. So as Joe said, make sure you stay involved and make sure that you're passing on your comments to us. So Joe mentioned briefly that many of these topics have supporting plans and policies that have been addressed, and these are addressed in the packets that you can find on the website. We'll be folding these in and continuing on. So I just want to reiterate that we're not reinventing the wheel on so many of these topics, that there's a lot of foundation for the city, for directions to move forward. But there are some new and important ideas that we'll be looking at under these various banners and headings of topics for Plan Fort Collins. So what I'll do is quickly walk you through the 7 topic areas, and so then you'll know where to find items on the website and how to give input on the topics that interest you most. So under economic health, this is an area that builds on the city's key economic action strategies. And this is the place where, if you're particularly interested in discussing policies and strategies for job creation, for retail retention and recruitment in the city, for addressing how the city might be involved in providing land that's ready for new businesses to come to Fort Collins, or supporting and working with local businesses, or working with partners in workforce training. This is the topic economic health, where you may want to spend some time reviewing the materials and giving us your input on those particular topics. Under environmental resources, you can find actually 2 separate videos on this topic. One addresses energy, air, and waste. The other one addresses stormwater, water, and open lands. And this topic area builds on a number of plans that deal with, and you can see the long list of topics here, everything from water and wastewater, utilities, on down to land conservation and stewardship and sustainability. So there's a lot under this banner of environmental resources, and we know a lot of people in the community may be interested in some of these topics. In the video related to energy and air quality and waste, you can comment on and provide more input on a number of these topics that you see here, everything from reducing energy use, potentially modernizing the electric grid in the city, on down through air quality, looking at alternative vehicle fuels and ways that the city can help promote or be involved in waste diversion programs, and looking at diverting our solid waste from the landfills in the area. And then it also addresses other topics, reducing carbon intensity. And we know that there's a lot of interest, both pro and con, on a lot of these issues, and we're very interested in hearing from the public about what you think on various approaches that the city might take. Moving on through environmental resources, the second video addresses stormwater, water, and open lands. And there are some interesting ideas in in that video about addressing what we call green streets and alternative ways of looking at stormwater treatment in the community, and also providing for flood protection and water quality and habitat protection. This is the section that also addresses water supply planning, conservation, as well as the Poudre River and how the community might work to plan for a resilient, healthy Poudre River, as well as looking at opportunities for some multi-use facilities in the future that might provide for the purpose of stormwater, open lands, habitat protection, and so forth. So that's an area that we'd like input from the public on. I just have a couple quick examples here of the stormwater idea, and this is just one example. In Fort Collins, we took Magnolia Street as an example of what this area might look like with traditional stormwater. This is an area that has flooding and needs some pipes in the ground. An alternative approach to providing stormwater along Magnolia Street would be looking at providing a stormwater treatment in the street itself and providing for some green space. So if this is something that you're interested in, definitely spend some time on the stormwater choices and tell us what you think about some of those ideas. Community and neighborhood livability. This is a topic that is well supported by City Plan and addresses a number of the topics that you see here, ranging from land use and growth management to gateways and targeted redevelopment areas and open lands. So there's a lot of foundation to work from. However, there is also a ways to go to address implementation of a lot of those topics, particularly in this economic market and particularly as the city builds out and there's less land and more focus on infill and redevelopment. So we know that a number of people in the community are very interested in these topics of infill and redevelopment and what happens in neighborhoods and how your neighborhood will be protected over time, where we should put our high density housing, how we address housing affordability in the future. And all these topics continue to be very important in the community, as well as how we address how the downtown area interfaces with the Poudre River. So that's an area of topic that may be of interest to a number of people. Here's another quick demonstration of what some of these community livability choices address. And here's a case of a retail establishment near Drake Road and College Avenue. It's a single-story, fairly typical large parking lot, suburban kind of style retail, and what this area might look like in the future if the city chooses to pursue its vision for the Midtown redevelopment study, which promotes through streets in the area and higher density building, potentially some structured parking. But what we want to hear from the community is whether this is a vision that really is something that is worth pursuing and worth putting resources and effort into, and if there's interest in partnerships and so forth. So there's some great ideas that we would like some input on related to that topic as well. On safety and wellness, this is a topic that was addressed in City Plan and the Transportation Master Plan, particularly public safety. There are some important questions on the table right now about how and whether the city continues to maintain its current level of police and fire service in the future, or whether the city needs to adjust down to meet its resource levels. In essence, there's a gap between resources and level of service. So if you're particularly interested in public safety, this would be a topic area for you to spend some time with. Some new topics that are on the table range from active lifestyles and healthy living and education and provision of health and human services, as well as something we've heard quite a bit about from the public, which is local agriculture and food production, and a lot of interest in pursuing and supporting that area of policy from the city's standpoint. So you might spend some time on that topic if you're interested. Culture, parks, and recreation, and this topic also deals with arts and culture. This builds on some existing plans that the community has. There are some new choices on the table about how to better integrate and promote arts and culture as part of the community. And then as parks and recreation centers adapt in the future to meet community needs, it may be that we need, for instance, another senior center. It may be that we need some parks that address some of the needs of our up-and-coming youth. And so we'd be very much interested in public input on those topics as well. Transportation, this is a big topic, and that's because it's probably one of the most pivotal topics for the community, because capital improvements and operation and maintenance are such big investments and important decisions for the community to make. And the city really wants to reflect public priorities as it makes those decisions and investments. So the Transportation Master Plan will cover a wide range of topics dealing with how people move through the community and how goods are moved through the community, freight and so forth, everything from bicycling to vehicles to transit. And we do have a range of choices on the table that are particularly important to get public input on, and that is, into the future, how should the city build its system of transportation? Does it need to actually resize it to fit the resources that we have, which are somewhat constrained? Does the city want to actually expand its long-term vision and really focus on transit and bicycling and some of the other aspects of a complete transportation system? And then, of course, related to those choices are these questions about funding, and should the city be increasing its transportation investment, or should we be reducing our services to live within our means? So definitely want some public input on that. Last but not least, in terms of the topics for Plan Fort Collins, high-performing community is a topic that underpins many of the other topics, because it really talks about how we work together as partners, how we solve our problems in the community, and how the city provides services. And so this is one that, if you're interested in the topics that you see here, you might spend a little bit of time studying that one as well. Finally, there is information on the website and throughout the city about questions about resourcing our future. Plan Fort Collins is linked closely to this ongoing community dialogue about how to fund city operations and services, although the distinction is that resourcing our future is more of a question about short-term needs related to safety, police and fire, as well as parks and recreation and transportation, whereas Plan Fort Collins is really more of a long-term view. But they are definitely very parallel efforts and need to inform one another, so you might spend some time on that as well. We thank you for taking the time to watch these videos, and we really hope that you'll give us some comments online up through July 12th. And there are opportunities for focus groups. You can sign up online or call the planning office, and we'll be continuing to push these policy ideas forward as we hear from the public, and developing a triple bottom line model so that we can continue to measure some of the difficult choices. And then we're gearing up for a council work session at the end of July, on July 27th. So those are some of the upcoming steps that we have right in front of us here in the next few weeks. So thank you so much for watching, and we look forward to your comments.